She's the vice chair. She could.
See how they can choose.
Alright. Oh my goodness, hold on for 1 second. Okay, let's try this again. So the Tuesday, April 15th, Budget Committee meeting to order. We have a quorum, and I'll just do some quick introductions of our Budget Committee, and if you, some of who have been here in the past and some are brand new, if you just want to just raise your hand and give a little wave. We have Dory Ballou. Good name, right? Yes, Dory, welcome.
Yeah.
And Jason, hey. Hi, Jason. Jason's been on here for this is my fourth year, all right. And Nancy McCune. Hi, Nancy, and you've been on here a few years, right, Nancy? Yes. Linda Newell. Hi, Linda, welcome. Linda's first year. Coral Sadler. Coral, this is your second year, right? Wonderful. Kimberly Seberg, she is not here today. And then we have Tony Wozniak. Tony, welcome. Thanks for being here. Tony's been here for a few years also, so. Okay, welcome all of our new and returning Budget Committee members. We really appreciate you guys being here. The first thing we will do is we will now call for nominations for Budget Committee Chair. All nominations are made and I need a second. Anyone like to make a nomination? I would like to nominate Michelle Wunderlich as our Budget Committee Chair. Oh, oh.
Oh.
What did I say? Michelle, holy smokes, I don't know what happened there. Michelle Hawkins, excuse me. I nominate Michelle Hawkins. Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
But I'm not gonna be here next week.
Well, your vice chair will take over. Wink, wink. Are there any other nominations? There are none. I will close nominations. We will call for a vote. All those from Michelle to be Budget Chair, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right. And then Budget Chair, would you like to take the seat in the gavel? Then I'll leave that.
There's snacks
Stuff with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're, okay, you're leaving each other?
Yeah, do you just?
Okay.
I'm
gonna make
it- It does not, yeah, no, no.
Okay. I do. Okay, now. Just kidding. Thank you. We'll now call for nominations of the vice chair. Any nominations?
I would like to nominate Sandra Gomez.
Are you looking at me over there? A motion has been made and seconded for Sandra Gomez as the vice chair. Okay, all in favor?
Yeah, ask for that, that was the nominations.
Oh, any other nominations? People are dying for this. Any other nominations?
you got a second.
I got like 3 seconds.
Okay.
Everybody
Yeah,
seconded
missed
it
it.
like, really quickly. Okay, all in favor? Any? Let's say aye. Oh, I'm gonna close the nominations. This is the script. It's not on the script. Nominations are now closed.
There you go.
Okay. Is there anyone on Zoom that we need to be?
No, no voting members on Zoom.
Okay, all right, all in favor of Sandra as the vice chair, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Congratulations, Sandra.
Okay, thank you also, everyone, for being here. I know it's a nice night, so we appreciate you. We are now going to move on to the presentation of the budget message and document by the budget officer, Susan Penrod. She will now present the budget message and the budget document.
All right, welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here on this beautiful evening. So, Kyle, if you can bring that presentation up, that would be great. So you have a couple, things in front of you, but I'm gonna, before we walk you through the main document, I'm gonna share some highlights. Okay. So as I said, welcome everybody. So I want to start with the second slide, Kyle. That is just a review of the, yeah, you can, you can come over here. One, the budget committee goals and responsibilities. So, thank you in advance for watching the video that was on the finance page. While it does, talk a little bit about the state school fund, it also talks, which we're not in, it also talks about your role. So, today you are receiving, the budget message and the document. We also provide members of the public an opportunity to ask questions and comment. So there will be a public comment time today. The budget committee can make changes to any line in the budget to meet the goals and program outlines. And for approving the budget document, the budget committee approves the budget document and then refer it to the school board for adoption. A couple things that the budget committee cannot do is change staffing levels, salary schedules, or negotiate salary contracts. All right, next slide. All right, in a moment, I'm going to read my budget message, which is on pages 10 and 11, if you'd like to follow along. But you will see some themes this year, some things coming forward in 2025 and to 2026 budget. We have some unique things that we haven't had before in our budget. So we have had about a 5% increase in PERS contributions. We knew this was coming up. So we're consciously preparing for that. There's a lot of uncertainty in federal grant funding right now at this time, and I'll get more into specifics about that. We have also had the sunset of our ESSER grant funding, which we had 3 different ESSER grants. That ended officially of September of 2024. And so these are just 3 unique things that we're facing this year. Okay, so I am going to read, I'm going to read the budget message. Okay, so once again, that's on page 10 and 11. So dear Seaside School District community, I submit for your consideration the proposed budget for the Seaside School District for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026. This budget reflects our commitment to cultivating an inclusive educational environment where every student's voice matters and fostering equity and community wellness. At Seaside School District, student and staff success is our #1 priority. Through this process, district leadership has worked diligently to prioritize our collective goals and keep students at the forefront of our decision-making. There are a number of challenges facing public school districts in the coming year, including an increase in PERS contributions, and the uncertainty of federal grant funding. Many of our most vital programs are funded through federal grants, including free breakfast and lunch for all students. Title I, which focuses on improving the academic achievement of disadvantaged students. Title IIA, which provides and supports professional development and other initiatives to improve educator effectiveness. And I put a note there that Title IIA has already been eliminated. Title III provides resources to support English learners and immigrant youth. Title IV aims to improve the overall quality of education and provide students with access to a well-rounded education. The next one is our McGinney-Vento Act, which provides support for children experiencing homelessness. IDEA, which is Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which provides federal funding for special education services. Medicaid, which funds our school nurse and our health assistant positions. And Preschool Promise, which are the funds for our Pacific Ridge Beginning School, which is our preschool program. In order to plan for a reduction in federal grant funding, we are adding $3,300,000 to our reserves. So all services provided by this funding will continue without disruption. The budget proposal includes a total investment of $49,496,219. The general fund represents approximately 67% of the 2025-26 proposed budget for all funds and accounts for most of the district's operating activities, except those required to be accounted for in another fund. The majority of general fund revenues come from local property taxes, our local option levy, and timber revenue. Budgeted general fund current requirements total $33.1 million, an increase of $3.1 million or 10.5% from 2024 to 25. The general fund also includes $2.1 million that funds approximately 18 full-time employees provided by the local option levy, which voters renewed in November of 2020. Our local option levy is up for renewal before May 2026. So in conclusion, the 2025-26 budget reflects our commitment to the core values of equitable, safe learning environments and engaging, well-rounded education and a focus on collective wellness and community partnerships. Thank you to our entire community for supporting our schools. Respectfully submitted, Susan Penrod, Superintendent. All right. Well, let's go on to the next slide then. So our theme this year, we kind of talked about a theme, and it's really people first. Because with, when reviewing the budget, there's a lot of districts across the state, which you've probably heard, have had to do some cutting of positions. They've had to downsize because we were not part of the state school fund. The revenue we receive is not dependent on the number of students that we have in our district. That gives us an opportunity to have funds to set aside. So what you'll see throughout this budget tonight is being able to preserve positions and people. And you'll see reductions in areas such as purchasing and supplies and materials that do not directly impact our students. So we've been really careful with that. What I've put up here with people first are some examples that do put our people first. We have a grow your own program, which are funds that we set aside for particularly for our classified staff who want to become teachers and to be able to help them fund that. It's also for some of our current teachers to get endorsements, such as a reading endorsement. And so we have already had, in the 3 years that we've had our Grow Your Own, five staff be able to reach their goal. We put our staff in first with professional development. We've done a lot of focus on our Marzano instructional framework. Being able to provide student and family support through our family liaisons and our student success TOSAs and our behavior TOSAs. We've kept our class sizes really small, especially at the elementary level. Most of our classes are 220 or under. We have many student opportunities through clubs and student council and all of those activities, and leadership. And then, of course, our robust wellness program that we have for all of our staff. Okay, next slide. All right, so what you see in this document this year is what we're gonna call a more detailed document. Based on the feedback that we heard from the budget committee, as well as other stakeholders, we've provided more information in this budget and which we'll walk through shortly. So I hope you find that really helpful. Next slide. Of course, with anything we do, we need to talk about our why. Okay, so you have on your table this, which really is an opportunity to really hone in on what is important for us. So while I won't read this, I just want you to be able to see that being able to really focus on a guaranteed and viable curriculum. So the materials that we teach to all students and our staff train that way. Staff, student, and community wellness. So because we all know that that somebody needs to feel safe and appreciated in order to learn. And then effective teaching in every classroom. We know that the classroom teacher has the biggest impact on our students. And so really being able to empower our teachers through professional development and support in those areas. Okay, next slide, Kyle. So the budget parameters here, there are, of course, when we go about building a budget, our student outcomes are what drive the budget. And making sure that we provide every student with equitable access and opportunities for a high quality education. We use data to inform our decisions. Being able to base those resources on the total value created for students. We do a lot of research and use data to prioritize those proven strategies. We're always looking at ways to, with our patterns of spending, to improve what we're doing and looking at a long-term perspective. And then, of course, being transparent to make sure that everybody has access to this information. Next, please. So this is a budget at a glance. Okay, as you can see here, we have these categories of salaries and benefits, purchase services, supplies, capital outlay, debt and insurance, and contingency and unappropriated. As you can see, which is typical in all public school districts, that our salary and benefits for our staff is a big chunk of the budget. Okay. Next slide. One of the things that that you asked for last year was a way to be able to look at all of our staff and the different employee groups. Okay, so what I have here is that we have 231.32 employees in our district. Okay, and classified make up about 50% of that. Those are our instructional assistants, our bus drivers, our food service, our custodians, our technology. And then certified staff. So these are our licensed teachers, our counselors, some of our specialists in this area. And this is 42%. Okay. We have another employee group called confidential supervisors. Our confidential staff are mostly district office staff who support negotiations directly. And then our supervisors are either non-school supervisors. So we have supervisors in technology, transportation, food service, and facilities. Okay. And that makes up 0.03%. The administrative is our building principals, our two directors, our curriculum director and our special services director, our business manager, and myself. And there's our total, and yes, we made sure that added up to 100. So. Okay, so I hope you find that helpful. Next slide. We have minimal staff changes this year, and working with our administrators and our staff to be able to once again, continue to grow and better our programs for our staff. So the first one you'll see in there is we have had a 0.5 social studies teacher in addition to our full-time our full-time teachers. We have some new requirements this year with new college and career readiness, which requires a couple different classes, a one trimester class on college and career readiness, as well as financial literacy. So we've needed to increase that in order to meet those requirements. We've had 2 certified pre-kindergarten teachers in our 2 preschool programs. We did have one of those teachers leave mid-year. So we've changed one of those to a classified or a non-licensed teacher. And we were able to put somebody in there who's been in that classroom, an employee who's been with us for a really long time, who is also going through the Grow Your Own program. So that's the change there. In addition to the 3 full-time technology staff, we have had a 0.4 instructional technology TOSAS, a long-standing employee with us who is retiring for the 2nd time. And things have transformed in that area. We now have 2 STEAM teachers. This teacher used to, teach some robotics kind of stuff, but we have 2 STEAM teachers now. And we've provided a lot of technology PD and training for our teachers in the past, but through COVID and all the other things, they just don't need that kind of training anymore. So this was an opportunity to eliminate this position through attrition. It has been a long-standing goal of the school districts to have a licensed librarian, a certified librarian. So this is an opportunity to move one of our 3 classified librarians into adding 1 certified librarian. We have had to work with the ESD for them to provide us with that licensed librarian. Kind of on call, to be able to meet our Division 22, but it's going to be really nice to have somebody on site. Okay, we, as you all know, it's a lot to keep up with the changing times in technology, and this is an opportunity to have a certified librarian to help us as we evolve with technology, with AI and such. Okay, and the last one you see there is at Pacific Ridge Elementary. We've had 2 full-time student support TOSAs, and then with our longtime assistant principal leaving, gave us an opportunity to look at some of our internal folks who've been working on their administrative license. And so this gives us an opportunity to add 2 assistant principals and eliminate one of the 2 TOSA positions. So it's not, while it is moving one of the licensed positions to an administrative, it's not just creating a new position. And that has a small financial impact. So that's the changes that you'll see as we go through here. Next slide. As you know here, in our board policy, the board has adopted this policy requiring our district to have an ending fund cash balance of at least 10% of our total adopted revenue. You'll see, as we go through the document there, I've added some more of our board policies in there for your reference. Next slide. So that brings us back to the conversation and these federal grants, that I read in the budget message. And, like I said, it's an interesting time in education with not knowing if all these grants are going to still be available to us. And I've had some conversations with our staff who are nervous about that. Are we still going to be able to provide these services? So in order for us to provide these services, as I said earlier in my budget message, that's a little over $3 million to be able to fund these programs. If these programs were to end mid-year next year. So on the next slide, I want to be able to share that the planning for that uncertainty. Okay, as I said, there's an increase in the PERS contributions of about $600,000. And the solution for that, as we walk through the budget, as Tony walks you through that, you'll see kind of decreased purchasing to accommodate for that. And then, once again, if there's a reduction in federal grant funding, our solution is to add that additional 3.3 million into our unrestricted fund balance. Okay, on the last slide for us here. It's always important for us to have an opportunity for anybody to submit budget related questions. One thing that's different this year, in the past, we've sent out a document and then we answer those questions and we read it in the second budget committee meeting. But we just wanted to really widen the scope for people who don't come to our meetings so that they can. So on our website under finance here is an opportunity for anybody to submit questions. This will be open until May 10th. And then at that time, we'll answer all those questions in a document, and then we will post online the questions and answers for anybody to see. That, so that anybody can see that, we will not need to read through all of those in the next meeting. So there we go. That's the presentation. I want to give you a little bit of an orientation through this document. So if you can, if you haven't opened your binder yet, if you can open that. Our goal, as I said, is to just make sure that somebody reading could get a clear picture of our school district, okay? So here I'm just gonna do a quick walkthrough with you on this. We have, I, as your superintendent, I manage and develop the budget with the help of others. Tony is our budget manager. Then, of course, we have all our 7 regular board members who represent certain zones and areas throughout our three cities. The next page, on page 5, in case you're curious, is some information about our district as well as the way our boundaries are divided. This is information you can also find on the county site. On page 6, and just let me know if I'm going too quickly, but on page 6 is our goals and our district mission and vision, and some a little bit more information on the document that I showed you. On page 7 is all of our district leadership, not only district office, but our administrators and our other supervisors, also including our athletic director in there. On page 8 is a little bit of information on the budget process, who our budget committee is. On page 9 is our budget calendar. As I already read to you, on pages 10 and 11 is the budget message from me. Page 10 is our budget summary by fund. Included in here is the proposed budget for all of our funds. and some information there. And on page 13, we have our budget parameters, which we talked about earlier. Page 15 is resources, and it talks about how we get our funding, local, intermediate, state, and federal local resources. Okay, and Tony will go into more detail about that. Information about our fund balance. In this budget, it's budgeted for 8.3 million, an increase of 2 million or 33.27%. Okay, so there's some more details about that. On page 17, this is resources, assumptions, and trends. Okay, the different funding. At the bottom of page 17 is another thing that we had been asked for, is to give a little bit more information about our student enrollment. Okay. So there's that information broken down since 2020 to 21 up until now. On page 18, there's information about our property taxes. As we've shared, there's 197 school districts in the state of Oregon, and only 4 of them are not in the state school fund. We are one of those 4 because we have this unique funding model of our property taxes is higher than the state school fund formula. So that is unique. There's many benefits to that. We have more stable funding. And so that's really helpful, okay? We have talked with the board and the public about our, the integrated guidance process. So from pages 19, okay, 19, 20, and a little bit of 21 is the culmination of several grants that we used to have to apply for individually, and those are all state grants. And so now we apply through one coordinated process. Okay, on page 21, we do have one of the roles of the board is to develop policies. And so between page 21 through, get to that. Through 26 are our board policies pertaining to this. Of course, we went over DB fund balance, but we also have DBE, the budget preparation process, on page 23. On page 24, your role is the budget committee. Page 25, budget hearing and notice. So, and then the budget adoption with DBH. On page 27 really starts some good information for you on fund classifications. So being able to have this in one place, I hope you find really helpful. So you'll see on page 27 that we have the 4 fund types, 100, 200, 300, and 400. And there is some explanation of that, as well as on the next page, and then referring to page 29, expenditure dimensions. So of course, in each of those categories, we have these function types, instruction, support services, and a description of what those are. That continues through page 30. Then you have some information that, once again, we hope you find helpful on the budget development process, as well as information about our local option levy and other resources. We've included on page 33 and 34 some variances. Okay, so this chart represents the larger variances in the resources from 2024 to 25 adopted budget and this proposed budget. Of course, you know, there are some times when we have to do some estimating, and so this gives you an opportunity to really see which which items we did have, like it said, a larger variance on. At the bottom of page 34 is more specific information about our salaries. So, as we said, this represents, the bulk of our funding. So there's salaries and then, of course, the associated payroll costs, benefits, all of that, described there, as well as PERS, which is the public employee retirement system that our staff have. And a little bit more of a breakdown. At the bottom of page 35, we do have, there is a public charter school in Cannon Beach Academy that we do sponsor. And so this gives you a little information about the payments that we provide for them. And they are a kindergarten through 5th grade, and the majority of those students come to us when they get to middle school. So we consider them our students as well. Here's just a little bit more information on page 36 about supplies and materials. The capital improvements that we do, even though our building is done each summer, we need to be able to increase upkeep or make some additions. And so these, I hope you find helpful, are an addition, and hopefully spell out some questions that you have ahead of time. Okay. That was a lot of information, but I'm gonna turn it over to Tony to take you through the nuts and bolts of this. There's a supporting document you have that Tony can, that's called Explanation of Variances in Budget 25-26. So if you can have this ready, and she'll be using this to be able to walk you through the budget. There you go.
Okay, hello, everybody. So, there's some, as Susan said, there's some overarching things, that we tried to do. If there's a position this year, there's a position next year, so nobody is out of a job. That is one of our goals. To do that, we adjusted for different things. So throughout the budget, you'll see a few things. Object 210 PERS, the benefit increased from the employer paid of approximately 5%. So now we're paying about 20% instead of 15%. So there's a big adjustment there. In object 420, which is textbooks, we did a whole bunch of adoptions through ESSER. And so we're only doing the one adoption this year. So you're going to see textbooks really decrease. Services and supplies, you'll see reductions in services and supplies throughout the budget. And those are objects in the 300s and 400s. And then finally, object 232, which is unemployment. Last fiscal year, when I was doing the budget, there was a law passed that classified could take unemployment during their break periods, so summer, spring break, things like that. So we didn't know what that impact was going to be. So we cushioned it a little bit more than normal. And so those numbers will go down. Okay. So 38 is just a little graph of salaries, benefits, purchase services, supplies and materials, and the percentages of those. On page 39, so when it says 100, 1111, 111, the first number is the fund number. The second number is the function number. So that's like primary K5. And then the 111 is the thing we're talking about, which is licensed salaries. So in that, licensed staff will move to grant funding. And if you'll look on this page from
the other non-instructional professional technical services down through non-consumable supplies, you'll see that drop, just adjusting.
Where are you
So
looking?
Tony, can I interject something
Go
here?
ahead.
So if you're on this page, you're looking on page 39, if you look at the 1, 2, 3, if you look at the 4th row over. And the 6th row over, this is where it talks about FTE, which is the number of staff. So when Tony says that, for instance, on in those two columns on 111 there, for 24-25, there were 36 FTE. And for this coming year, we're proposing 33.5, but this does not mean that those positions are cut. It means that they've been put in other grant funding. So that, hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and if I'm going too fast, just let me know. On page 40. At the top of the page, you'll see, the instruction professional technical services goes from 22,000 to 71,000. That is outdoor tuition, outdoor school tuition, which used to be in our local service plan, which is not in our budget. It's through Northwest Regional ESD. So we are putting it back in the budget. We are getting a grant from, is it Oregon State? Oregon State. So
Extension.
it's in our budget. Okay, also on page 40, in object 389, there's, other non-instructional professional technical services. That is, our substitute teaching. It has increased a lot, so we just increased it to what we're actually, spending. On function 1122, the middle school extracurricular, we also adjusted to actual for the additional salary. There. On page 43. The student services, we haven't been using that line item, so we adjusted to actual.
What line was that?
It's student services,
389.
389. It just wasn't being used, so we adjusted. And then again, the other non-instructional professional technical services was adjusted to actual.
That the 313?
So the 389 went from 56.5 to 25.5. We just adjusted to actual.
And then the second one you were talking about?
The student services, 33,000 that we thought was going to happen, did not, so we adjusted back to 500.
What line are you looking at? Sorry.
Sure, it's
What page?
It's
43,
We're on page 43.
3133. 31.
313 student services.
Thank you.
Up at the top. Okay.
Okay, in function 2150. There's FTEs, went from 9 to 7 and 17 to 15. Those were moved to grant funding. It's still on page 43.
Function
Is that
two one five
It's in
zero.
function 1250, the less restrictive.
Oh,
Got it.
1-2.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was some FTEs that went to grant funding.
Does that refer to this whole group or just in line item?
The 111 and the 112.
Got a general question.
Sure.
I see that you got the 24-25 adopted. When do you actually get the actuals?
I won't get them until they're audited, and so that will be next year. probably January.
Alright,
Yeah.
So you're just proposing based off of what's going on right now, what you're
Right.
saying, okay,
Mhm.
what you're saying, okay.
Okay, next page. 44. So in function 1280, alternative education. There is a drop in salary, and that's just, the salaries vary depending on the employee, so it's not the same employee in that role. And that's why it dropped. Okay,
Is it a salary step?
yeah. Okay, and,
Thank you.
the function 1288, alternative education's charter school. It also decreased, charter schools are based on the state school fund formula. So we take things like, their enrollment, their poverty level, ELL students, and there's a formula for it, and, their poverty level has gone down, ELL students, and so it's just and that's what we're paying them. Okay, at the top of page 45.
So if you put your page, here we go.
Sorry. So at the top of the page, the English second language, you'll see that the contractual employee benefits have gone up. And the contractual benefits are things like their insurance and things like that. So just for an example, at 12 months for an opt-out stipend, when they already have medical insurance, we pay them $9,600 annually. If they actually get insurance, we pay $22,500. So that's why those go up and down.
Yeah, so one thing unique to our district is that, as Tony said, if we have an employee who maybe through their spouse or if they're under 26 and they can still get insurance with their parents, then one benefit we do offer is an $800 opt-out stipend. So then they get that throughout the year. And so that's what that describes.
Next page.
That's nice.
Okay, on page 46, there's psychology services. And there's an added FTE there in our budget. We had been hiring through Northwest Regional ESD with service credits, so that does not show up again on our budget. So it looks like a new position, but it's actually just funded differently.
Yeah, we're bringing that position, right here in district instead of contracting with the ESD for that, which, sometimes didn't have somebody on site as much as we wanted to, so.
Right,
That's the 111.
right.
And psychology services, benefit all the schools.
Yeah,
Or-
yes, it's
okay.
a district-wide position, and school psychs are often, doing academic testing and with our students too, for students who qualify for special education or other special services.
Okay, on the next page. At the top of the page, function 2190. The student support services, there is additional FTE that came from function 1250. Which is it's the disabled services. And then under function 2222, which is library services. We did have, as we mentioned before, one of our classified staff went through Grow Your Own and is now a licensed position. So it just went from classified to licensed. Okay. Next page. 48. And function 2240, which is staff development, we are cutting back on travel, which is going to conferences and training events and things like that. So we're cutting back on that.
Yeah, when we had our, of course, ESSER funding, there were many opportunities to be able to use that for professional development. And as I talked about through the Marzano training, we were able to send a lot of our staff, our teachers and administrators to that. So that was really nice to have that funding. But now that we don't have that additional ESSER funding, but a lot of our staff have received that training, so we're really thankful for that. But with that funding going, and as we said, to be able to prioritize people and positions, that's something we thought way back on.
And they can take it virtually too. I mean,
Yeah, and one thing we will continue to do is we will bring some Marzano trainers here to be able to train all of our staff on site. And we do that a couple times throughout the year, and that's we've been doing that all along, but we will limit it to that so that our staff still have the robust training, but it won't involve as much travel.
thank you.
So in Board of Education Services, just a little bit further down, we've cut that in half for the non-instructional professional technical services. That's things like legal fees and consulting fees. Since we're not doing a lot of capital projects anymore, those are gonna be, those are gonna go way down. Okay, on page 49, we have a small correction for the office of the principal. As Susan stated before, we are going to have a TOSA. They're going to be the assistant principal. So the license salary should be 1, and the administrators should be 7. On page 50. In fiscal services. Classified salaries, it went from 3.2 FTE to 4. And what we did was we made payroll and HR full-time instead of part-time when we brought payroll back in-house from having it serviced from Northwest Regional ESD. Okay, on the next page, in about middle of the page, care and upkeep of buildings. We have reduced non-consumable supplies by $100,000. And that is delaying a furniture replacement schedule until next year. And then again, on page 51, under student transportation services, there's an increase in classified salaries of 1 FTE. And we have hired a head secretary for the transportation department. And there is lots of changes in the transportation department. So you'll see in the travel, which is actually training, we increased that to $40,000. And that is because we no longer have in-house trainers for driving instructor and for driving. So we're contracting out to Beaverton School District for that.
And we hope to still fill that position to have our own trainer, but it's about 6 months that we haven't had that position. So in order for us to train new folks, we've been contracting with Beaverton. There aren't a lot of school districts that allow us to contract, but it's our closest one to be able to do that.
Okay, and In software, we have increased software $10,000. And what we're doing is, we're investing in more comprehensive student transportation software.
To be able to help with routing and also communication with families.
Is that new app? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So in, additional, equipment, that is our bus purchases. We are going to, delay purchasing, the next bus until, next year.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, our transportation, we own all of our own buses. We don't contract out for that. And we've had an opportunity where we've put in the funding to add a new bus each year as our other ones age out. But we're in really good standing with the buses that we have now. So, to be able to save $200,000 and not buy a bus next
Mhm.
year, makes sense.
Okay, and a little bit farther down in technology services, you can see, the retiree that, we have, eliminated due to attrition. That's the 0.4 in licensed salaries. Okay, on the next page, 53. About halfway down the page, supplemental retirement program. So this is, a deferred compensation program for retirees with 20 years of service or who, were hired before 2004. And this program runs until they're 65. So people are just, aging out of this program. Okay, at the bottom of the page, our planned reserves, have increased again, because of the uncertainty of our, federal programs. Okay. So next is page 55. This is the end of our, requirements and the start of our resources report. This is the one-page report for general fund. So there's a few things here. Payments in lieu of property taxes. We will be getting a railroad car tax. So I've added that. The state managed county timber. The timber this year and the reports that I've been getting are very optimistic, so I did increase that. Okay, and our beginning fund balance, it increased last year. And it's largely in part because we were able to fund large purchases from the general fund in ESSER. Okay. And then the miscellaneous, I'm sorry?
You're on page 59 now, is what you're.
I had a question on 5 for the sources.
Sure.
Just if we're doing questions. So federal sources increasing reserve by 3.3. I saw the breakout on the slide. Well, I saw the list on the slide, but not like the full breakout. But it went up from 24, 25, 26, went up 2 million. But we're assuming that the uncertainty of that and then halfway through. So like, do we have a high degree of confidence at 4.1? That we'll see 4.1, or I guess I'm just trying to look at the walk from 6.3 to 8.3 and then 8.3, 3.3 being at risk. I guess I just don't understand it. And from that increase, and then also understanding why we're setting aside that 3.3. I guess like, I'm not making those connections.
Setting aside 3.3 allows us to not reduce any staffing and to still be able to have enough if the majority of of the federal funds ends. So, you know, we do have our, you know, our additional ending fund balance if everything were to go out.
Yep.
Which I don't think is likely. I think more what we would see would be reductions. So that, the 3.3 was in our thoughts, a balance between being able to preserve these programs without having to reducing staff. Is that what you're asking?
And they used to get revenue, federal fund revenue, and that's,
Yeah, it's at risk. That's the 8.3, right? That's the 8.3.
So the 8.3 is the beginning fund balance for next year. That's
Okay.
that's what the estimate is.
and you're aligning kind of with revenue, right? That's what you're seeing the cut and that's what you're adding, which is.
That's what I'm seeing
very
right now.
smart.
And, I mean, in our, I'm happy to also, if you would all find it helpful to break down what each of those federal grants are.
Yeah, I guess like I saw the list and that was my question on the slide was like, you know, what are the amounts for each of those? So we understand the respective line items for the Title I, Title II, like what are those amounts? And
Yeah,
I
and,
assume they total 3.3.
they're close to it, yes.
Okay.
What we know is, we don't know necessarily what we're getting
course.
next year. And so when we, because awards haven't been given out for most of them yet. So, you know, they fluctuate year by year, but usually what we do is we say, okay, this is what our award was in 2024,
Sure.
25.
Sure.
And then, you know, make a prediction if we think that'll be similar to what it is, if there's a reduction, you know, based on, you know, our number of students or our services, or if we predict that there's gonna be an increase.
Right. Right.
But that's, you know, so it's a little bit of a guessing game because, we haven't received those figures yet.
And was the comment made of like, it's obviously a debited amount, but is it annualized across the year? Or will you know at the beginning of the year? Like, okay, we assumed it was 3.3 and we will know right off the bat what it is, or will you be able to kind of spend down on some of that through half of the year and then you'll find out about it later on
Yeah, I
and then
think
have to make adjustments?
I think it'll be important to kind of review as we go because there's unknowns, like, for instance, as I shared that the Title IIA with professional development was supposed to be through this whole year.
Mhm.
But that's already been cut.
Okay.
So, it
Right.
can be, it lends to some unpredictability.
And if it doesn't cut, it's a good news. It's
It is good
saving.
news.
It's saving, it's
Yeah.
gonna generate.
Yeah.
So she's predicting the worst scenario to protect.
Yes.
Which unfortunately we have to do.
Yeah,
We
we
have to.
have to do that.
In order to keep all those, you know, important services going.
Yeah, if it doesn't happen, it's a good.
That would be a great.
It would be a great thing.
I don't know
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah,
part of your
it's a-
question, Jason,
Mhm.
but the 2.1 local option levy, that's not guaranteed. through the
No,
next-
we have to renew the local option levy every 5 years.
Mhm.
You know, when we get closer to that, you know, we'll talk about messaging on that. A really important thing, you know, to message to our community is you know, it's already in their taxes. It's not an addition. But you know, we all know people are strapped right now. You know, people are trying to pay their bills right now. So, you know, it's also something, a local option levy has never passed. It's never not passed in our district. It's always passed. Even during COVID, when we really couldn't do much outreach to people to talk about it, it still passed. Our community is really supportive that way. But as I said, these are kind of some unpredictable times right now.
What is our plan if that doesn't pass?
We need to dig into our reserves. And I'm really thankful that we have, the board has directed that 10% ending fund balance so that we have some cushion there. Go ahead, Tony, sorry.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Did this answer your question?
Yeah, I think the breakout would be really helpful.
Yeah, I'll get that for you guys.
Okay. Okay, so there's not a whole lot of change in the miscellaneous grants on page 57. On page 59, this is just for historical purposes, since we know we're not receiving the Title IIA. And when I say historical, we have to publish in our documents the actuals for the preceding years. And so that's why it's there historically. Okay, and on the next several pages is ESSER. Again, this is for historical purposes. And that ESSER ends on page 66. Page 57 is technology grants, and there's no changes there. On page 69, this is our Medicaid administrative claims. We have, there's less Medicaid claims this year than there was last year. So we're putting the reserve for next year back into the classified and managerial staffing. The spider is staying the same. Title I funding is going up just slightly. On page 73. Okay, yeah, that's what we're predicting if it doesn't go away completely. On page 75. Our IDEA Part D section 611 for less restrictive for students with disabilities. We are hearing that is going to be a reduction in award, so we budgeted the one FTE and another grant. On page 77. Fund 243, which is Title III English language learners. We have pulled out of the consortium, and this is funding so we can serve our students in district. And then on page 79, this is for historical purposes. We're not expecting that award. '81. I don't expect. It's in there. So page 83 to 87 is our miscellaneous grants that are not federal. So these are things like our vocational ed, Northwest Regional ESD, pass-through grants. And these are things that are small or that they're larger but shorter term. So this is not ongoing grants. So this fund fluctuates a lot, depending on which grants we are awarded in the miscellaneous categories. On page 89, the FTE was moved to another fund. And on page 90. This is where 3 of the FTEs were placed. Less restrictive for students with disabilities. On that page.
Where they were relocated from.
They're relocated from other funds.
Yes, thank you.
And then again, on page 91, under guidance services, there's, we've added an FTE from another fund. So some of them came from the general fund. There was one from the high school success and then 0.5 from early literacy. So on page 94, fund to PTT graduation and college for readiness. There was one FTE that was transferred to SIA.
That's on page 95, right?
Yes, 95.
Okay.
And on 97, summer enrichment and learning programs, this is for historical purposes. Ninety-nine, HB 3499, there's not, a big change there. On page 101, our energy efficient schools, this is for our energy loan payment. And on page 103, that's our schedule, we have,
Are we off on page 101,
Yeah, then it goes to 106.
260?
Uh-huh.
101, 260. Sorry, I was doing so good.
sorry,
You're still doing good.
You go from 101 to 106, right?
right, on the variances,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're on page 106 now, correct?
106, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, this is student body funds. There was a reserve for the next year in the adopted last year. And this will be, this is added to high school extracurricular consumable supplies. Page 108. For early literacy success grants. That 0.5 was moved to SIA because we were unable to fill that position. Page 10.
What's SIA again?
The student success.
Student investment account. It's it's state funding that we get that's funded through the corporate activity tax. And
Okay.
it is, it's stable funding. They would need to change legislation to remove that. So, so that's funding that we, it's a biennium grant, but, it's broken down year by year.
Sorry, for the student
Student investment account.
investment.
Mhm.
And on page 110, this is preschool promise. We have moved, the one license to classified, and that's our, one of our unlicensed that is in Grow Your Own program. To become a license. Okay, and then. We come to the back of the. This. So next few pages are scholarships. And then on page 116, the big increase is our food costs. So this is, the purchase food for our lunch and breakfast programs.
Is that because of the grants or?
That's just our food cost rising.
Inflation.
Inflation, yeah.
What's the rate? Do you know?
Hmm?
Do you know what's the rate?
The rate, I can calculate it, but I'm not
I know
sure. It's about
quite a
4.5%,
bit. Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
that I calculated. Okay, the next several pages are debt service funds, which is just, based off of our, obligation, and you can see those tables. The next major variance is on page 130. And that's in our capital improvement, account, fund 400. And that's, we're winding down our project, so like the softball field is ended and different projects are being completed. So, we're spending a lot less.
And that's the part creating contingency fund.
Right, just in case we need to finish up something, I've put 300,000 in there. Okay, and then on page 132, which is our last major variance, and we are closing out the LGIP Go Bond Fund for 10. It should be closed by June 30, 2025.
And that was the general obligation fund that we use to build our new school and remodel the other one. So that bond project.
Okay, here we go. And then in the back, there's a glossary of terms, just in case I confused you completely. And we need to put something on.
Glossary terms starting on page 138
And going through 145.
145.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, a lot of work.
Thank you.
Before we have a committee discussion, I'm gonna open up to public comment. Not, clearly, there's no extra credit for the budget meeting. People out there.
There's no students. One thing.
Oh, individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes and cannot give their time to another speaker. There will be up to 30 minutes of public comment allotted. If additional time for comment is needed, it will be at the end of the meeting. If any of you do have comments, please come to the front and state your name. Kyle, is there anyone online?
There's not.
Okay, so now I will open it up to the committee. Are there any clarifying questions from any committee members? Or discussion?
Safer questions till here, or it's fine to ask you.
Yeah, no clarifying, right? You got a question about. You're gonna sit there.
Right, because we know there's a lot of information we just gave you. And then, for you to be able to take these documents and, delve into them more deeply, you will probably have questions. And what I have down is that, I will send all of you the breakdown on the federal funding. We'll also send the rate of inflation we use. Those are the two questions I have. I also encourage you, as you go through this, to reach out to me between now and May 20th, our next meeting, because I'm happy to meet with you, whether it be in person or a phone call, if you have some questions as well.
Any more questions? Everyone's turning,
Look at me for it.
because you looked like you were gonna say something, but you were waiting.
I think that I think Catherine asked it, but to the point of spend to date, I think that was something that you built out last year of like variances of the approved budget last year. Where we had to move money across. I know that there's a vote for a certain amount that has to be moved. Any of those movements between funds or types would be really interesting and beneficial to us of where we missed last year. And then also the spend to date for burn down to end of the year of any accounts that are ahead or any accounts that are behind. Not at maybe just a little bit deeper than the fund level, but certainly not at the.
We've been reporting those in our monthly board meetings. One of the things that we got from that discussion, in addition to some of our regular board meetings, is to be able to provide those monthly
Right,
monthly finance reports that
Sure.
say where we are. And I'd be happy to send those monthly reports to everybody as well.
okay, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they're online too, so that's great.
But like I said, we're happy to kind of compile all those together, so.
Yeah.
If you'd like.
That'd be great. And then the decision on, or the discussion on, we're not gonna talk about the questions in the next one. That's what I heard you say at the beginning, was the question submitted, you provided out the readout last year, we kind of walked through it, asked amplifying questions. We're not gonna do that this time.
Well, I don't, because it will be open to everybody to go to the website and look at. When we close, you know, we want to be able to leave that open till May 10th, you know, for people, because if they look through this may generate some more questions for
Sure.
them. So then, the next few days after that, we'll answer the questions and post the questions and answers online.
Yep.
And, probably what I'll do is just send all of you an email and say, hey, this is, you know, this is up and ready on our website for you to take a look at.
Yeah, I'm not questioning that. I think that document last year of these were all of the questions was very helpful, certainly to be able to go in and see what other people have. I just was curious if there was going to be an opportunity to discuss amplifying information from those questions.
We could definitely do that. And you know, what I kind of plan on looking at, like I've done in the past, is, you know, look for some trends in questions and it doesn't keep us from discussing all those, you know, I mean, we can definitely do that. You know, we just don't necessarily need to read through any one. So, we don't need to read through all of them because we
Yeah.
have a public document there. But I do think, it'll be really worthwhile to look for trends and then, as all of you go and look at those too, if you have any questions regarding that, it'd be great to bring those.
Okay, no, I totally, line. I think it's just important to give the opportunity to, hey,
Absolutely.
that answer
Yeah.
wasn't what I was looking for.
Yeah, well, and that's my question is, so May 10th goes by, you answer the question, someone has a follow-up from that question to the question, are we able to answer that?
Sure.
You know, and if that goes, so there's a dialogue through this. So if you've asked a question, can you then ask a follow-up question to that question if it's not fully answered? Is that gonna be possible to do that?
Yes,
Have
and
that
on that
website
form that
also?
gives an opportunity.
So I just wanna make sure we have dialogue with some people if they have, you know,
Mhm.
the question builds. I just wanna make sure all their questions get answered before we come to the meeting, and then
Mhm.
if we need to really dive into it, we can, but I just wanna make sure. that-
Right, and when we close it on the 10th, and I message it out to people, I'll encourage them that, you know, if there's any questions from the questions that we
Right.
see, to just reach out to me directly.
Yep.
Which is, the reason we have the May 10th closing date is so that we have time to answer those questions and post it before the next board meeting.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure people get their questions answered fully,
Absolutely, absolutely.
so then,
And we always have time for discussion.
that's right, that's right.
Just come with your
And our
answer.
public comment, of course, too, so, yeah.
What was the contracted salary negotiation increase for this year? Was there one?
Good question. So last year, we successfully negotiated with our licensed union, Seaside Education Association. And that was for 3 years. And so this year, it was a 7.5% increase. And then the 2 following years are 3.5 and 3.5. So when we agreed on the 7.5 for this 24-25 year, we gave that to all of our employees, even though we weren't quite done with the classified contract. So we are currently in negotiations with our classified OSEA. And so the way we've planned and what we've offered is that 3.5 and 3.5, and then a third year for 3.0. So that's how we projected that. Good question.
So what year would you be back at the bargaining table? Is it 3 years starting from last year?
Yeah, and we staggered because it's a lot to negotiate for classified and certified in 1 year. So this is the first year of the license contract, so, 5.6, 27, so we're back in 27, and then the following year of that, with the classified union, we have proposed a 3-year contract with them, so it's staggered like that. Mhm.
Good questions. Any other questions? Comments? No? Okay. So you guys have time to take this home and really dig in? And then our next meeting for the budget committee will be Tuesday, May 20th at 6 o'clock. Same bat time. same bat time.
And once again, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And like I said, we can either communicate through email or phone, or I'm also happy to meet you.
Okay, thank you. Good job. Tony.
Beautiful job.
This meeting is
Tony.
adjourned.
Have a
Quick recess.
quick recess.